Hi everyone, Mary Lou here. Welcome to my channel. When my mother passed away, when my sisters were finishing things up where she was living, they found some really pretty tins. And my mom had kept all the cards that Ann and I had made and sent her. Now, if you've watched my channel for any length of time at all, you know that Ann and I were making cards and sending them to her every month. And then when she passed away last year, we just kept sending them to my aunt who lives in California. Well, it was so interesting to me that my mom kept all these cards, and as I looked through them, I realized a lot of them were just flat out card fails. And so I actually thought it would be fun. Look at this. I think this was the first card we ever made and sent to her. It's got these stapled tulip things that I cut out just by hand, and they're not even sticking. They're supposed to raise up, but of course through the mail they get smashed down. It's boring. There's not much to it, and it's falling apart. Anyway, I thought it would be fun to go through and maybe do a little bit of a series of card fails and simple ways, basic ways to take a boring and kind of janky card like this and turn it into something a little better. And so I actually have several in here. Look at this one. This one just falling apart. It's a lamb jumping over a fence, and it's even backwards, and I don't know, there are just a lot of them in here that are just not that great. I mean, they're boring. And so I thought this would be a really fun thing to do over time. And so the first card we're doing is the first card we ever made for her, and we're going to redo a tulip card and make it so it's nicer than this. Okay, so let me show you some of the things we'll be using for this card. And here's my first suggestion. Instead of having to cut everything freehand and it end up looking a little janky, get yourself a good die of the shape you want. So I have this tulip die set that I got, I believe, at Amazon, and it's a layered die set. And I went ahead and cut out all of these over and over in white cardstock. And so when I get dies, I try to leave them together as much as possible. I'll take out anything that's in the middle of a large die like that was, but I will keep them connecting, because when you're cutting a bunch, it's easier to just move one big thing over. And so I'm able to just cut out a lot more that way. And I cut them all out of white cardstock. And then also on this actually has 3 different tulip shapes. And so I went ahead and figured out what went with what. And then I just used a permanent marker and marked on the back which shape went with which tulip. And it just makes it easier the next time I use it to remember what goes with what. So I just keep those all together like that. So that's a suggestion. But your first suggestion for redoing failed cards is to get a good die of what you actually want to cut, so you're not doing it freehand. And then the second thing is, see how boring this background is? And so one very simple way to remedy that is to use a shape in the background. So for a couple of the cards I'm doing today, I'll be using some oval shapes. And if you want to be careful about what you're buying, one of the best sets, best bang for your buck are these nested shapes. And so, I mean, because these, you can get a whole bunch of different sizes. They can be used for any holiday, any time of year, and I've used them over and over and over. And these are by far the dies that I get the most use out of. And so I have circles, ovals, hearts, I've got stars, I've got squares, rectangles, and I literally use those all the time. Another one of these nesting sets that I'll be using today are these from Photo Play, and it's just this kind of a label frame, and you'll see those in just a little bit as well. So good bang for your buck. So there's just another suggestion for rescuing failed cards. So today, what I'm going to do is also bring in, I have a 13 by 13 glass mat, and on it I just keep this grip mat on it all the time, and then I can just bring in the dies that I've cut out of my tulip die set and just stick them down onto this mat, and then I can bring in my inks. So I just have several inks that are pink, and so I did a whole bunch of tulips with pinks, and then I also did some in yellow, and so I just have those all together, and this mat actually just helps hold everything down. So those are the things I'm using besides the stuff that's just routinely in my stash. And so let's get going with first inking our tulip and leaf shapes.
So I'm putting the leaves down. You can see off to the side I've been working on some of the tulips, but now I'm working on the leaf shapes. I've stuck them down to my sticky mat. Sorry about when my head gets in the way, but that's, you know, how it works when you're crafting. These I did cut out of some green scrap paper that I had, and so now I'm just adding some green ink just to give them a little bit of variation in color, make them more interesting. And so this inking is where you really get those color variations in there. And I just add them all to the mat. I just bring in the ink, and then I have this tray that I actually got at the dollar store years ago. I have several of these, and I just kind of put all the things together in there to keep everything sorted before it's time to go ahead and start assembling. And so this sticky mat, it looks pretty stained, because it is. I use it quite a bit, but before I move on, I actually will wipe that down and get off anything that is, new, but those reds, they stain quite a bit. And so now I'm going to start assembling these, and you'll see that, like I looked at that and I saw the background was too much the same as the foreground on that next leaf. So I just darkened that up a little bit, brought my ink back in to get that background darker so that you can see the petal that's going in front of it. And then you see on my mat, I have all of the pieces sorted by the tulip that they are being made. So like I numbered those pieces on the back of my die, and now when I use my sticky mat, I also keep them sorted according to which parts go with which tulip. Okay, now let me show you some of my finished tulips. So these are the ones I just finished, but I also did some in other colors. I did a lighter pink with a little more of a purple tone, and then I did some of these yellows, and you can see the little stamens in the middle of the one. And so I went ahead and put the leaves on those, and it makes it easier for me to kind of see how these lay out if I attach the stems and the leaves before I go ahead and put them on my card. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that with these, is get the stems and the petals on, and then we are ready to start assembling cards.
Let's bring back our card base and start doing something to go from boring and falling apart to pulled together in a way that has a focal point. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is take some stitched oval dies, and I've kind of been looking at my card size, and I think I'm going to go ahead and cut out some ovals as sort of a place to anchor my flowers. And so I'm going to cut one oval, I think, out of a light blue, and the other oval out of some vellum, just to give it a little bit of a softer look. And then another thing I'm going to do is some embossing on a background piece. Okay, so we're going to, we've got our background paper, very close color. What I'm going to do is just layer a pretty background on there, to give our eye some interest. So remember, this is what we're trying to fix, and I don't want to go over the top with too many things, because I want to show some ways to just improve the cards gradually. I'm trying to decide, I think we'll go with that side. I mean, yeah, you can add a whole bunch of stuff to improve a card just so that your eye has more to see, but I don't want to go too over the top. I want to keep it still simple. Okay, and so I like the bit of interest with the embossing. I just did some embossed stripes on white with this cream colored background, because our original had a cream colored background. And now I'm going to go ahead and layer my vellum and my blue. But what I'm going to do, because vellum, if you glue it, you can see tape through it. So I'm going to wait and put my adhesive on the back. I'm going to just center this and just get an oval down as a landing spot for my flowers. Now let's bring in the flowers and my vellum. Just going to lay that there. I love the stitched detail on those ovals. And then I'm going to just kind of figure out how I want these to sit and how many. Oh, those are so pretty. With the blue and that bright red flower. Now let's see, do I want to bring in a third one? Usually I like to work in odd numbers. I think so, and I'm going to clip that off so it can slip right back behind there. Yeah, I do. I like odd numbers. Artistically, they are better for our eye. And then some of this I'm actually going to trim off. So for right now, I'm not worried too much about the bottom. So I'm going to tear off a piece of press and seal. I really like this stuff. And I'm just going to put the sticky side down over the top and just kind of pick everything up so that it stays right where I want it. And then I can take all of my flowers off and they will all stay in the correct position. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and put glue on the flowers. So now I've got my vellum in place. All right, so I can see that. Now I'm going to go back behind the flowers on the vellum, and that's how the vellum is going to stick down to the blue part. And I do like the press and seal because you can see through it, and then I can just peel it up and everything is right where I want it to be. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and clip these off. Okay, there we go. Pretty straightforward and simple, but look at the difference. This one has just so much more to look at, and it just has some background, a focal point that draws your eye in. It just looks so much better. Okay, now while I was doing this, I was also experimenting. I decided to try a couple of others. I used a border die to create this. I added some of my little embellishment jewels, but honestly, I kind of like this one. This one went a little bit more, but I do like that there's some background interest, there's some color to pull it in, and it just kind of is all tied together. So if we're looking at this versus this just has some simple additions that make it just a little bit more beautiful, a little bit more interesting to look at.
Now I'd like to show you another couple of ideas that I did with the cards having to do with tulips. And one of the things I've been trying to get better at is the collage style. And it's something that I think is really interesting to look at, but it is kind of not my style, but I want to get good at it. And so I pulled out several things from a Tim Holtz ephemera kit, and I'm going to arrange on this really nice sort of frame. I'm going to arrange a whole bunch of things and then use that as a focal point with my tulips. So I'm adding on some written things. I'm adding on a cool little metal thing, a butterfly, and this border that is going around this cool shaped background. And I'm just experimenting because I want to learn different styles. And this is not a style I'm good at. And so, heck, why not learn something new? And so I'm going ahead and creating this card based on what was on the back of that die set that I showed you in the beginning. And so I'm just imitating the card they showed there. And that's one way to learn new styles, is imitate.
So if we're looking at this versus this just has some simple additions that make it just a little bit more beautiful, a little bit more interesting to look at.
Okay, this is where we started with our card fail, and here is where we ended up. And I wanted to show you several other tulip-themed cards that I made around the same time as I did this car repair. But as you see, there's so much you can do when you add some simple elements. Hope that helps. We'll see you next time. Remember, people always matter more than things. Bye-bye.